बराबर है.
See, if I will, it will cover his face. Just reduce it a little bit. Floor. Can we reduce this one?
talk afterwards. All right.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. If you wouldn't mind taking a seat, we'll begin very shortly.
Not England. No.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the GWC Forum 2022. My name is Emily Angwin, and I'm a senior anchor at Al Jazeera English, and I'll be moderating today's event. The theme is Ready for the Game, which describes both GWC and the entire state of Qatar as we prepare to host the biggest mega event in the entire world. I'm sure we can all agree we're really excited about having the first FIFA World Cup in this region, which will kick off on the 20th of November. It promises to be an unforgettable event. But the World Cup is not just about football, and that's why you're all here today. It's about legacy. The legacy it will leave for people and businesses across this country and the region. And that's where we come in. Today we'll be looking at how this tournament will benefit MSMEs in Qatar, which is micro, small and medium enterprises. We'll look at how we can leverage the hosting of this mega event to supercharge the economy and also achieve the goals of Qatar's Vision 2030. We will answer all these questions and more, and during this year's forum as we get ready for the game. Before we go on, we have a few thank yous. We'd like to thank our forum partners QNB, HBKU, Flowed, and BN Sports. Thank you all for your sterling contributions to this event. Now let's begin with the Director of Marketing and Communications, Ms. Jawahar Al-Khuzai. Give her a round of applause, please.
Thank you. Can I have this one, please?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Our distinguished guests and our colleagues from the media. It's a great pleasure to welcome you to the second edition of GWC Forum, Ready for the Game. As you can see, Qatar is ready. Qatar is ready for the game. Ready to host a unique and memorable edition of the FIFA World Cup. It has been over a decade in the making, and finally, the biggest event ever to be held in the Arab world is almost here. There are only 19 days to go until the big kickoff. We are all looking forward to the matches, to the global celebration, and the beautiful game here in Qatar. However, more important than the World Cup itself, it's what comes after it. The legacy it leaves. One is the economic legacy, which we'll be focusing in today's forum. How can we as a country and industry leverage Qatar's staging in the World Cup? How can we together develop the economy and achieve the goal of Qatar National Vision 2030? Which sectors, which industry have the potential to grow as a result of the World Cup and the power to power the economy going into the future? They are all questions that we are aiming to get the answers today in today's forum. And we'll answer them by talking to experts and key players in the logistics and supply chain solutions industry. There will be valuable contribution from high-level speakers, including stakeholders and key figures in Qatar, in the public and private sector in different fields. Here at GWC, we are very proud to be the official logistics provider for the FIFA World Cup Qatar 2022. And we are even more prouder that we are playing our part in supporting Qatar economy and providing a massive infrastructure for the development of the country's micro, small, and medium enterprises, the MSMEs, who will drive our economy forward in the coming years. So enjoy today, take the knowledge, and let's continue collaboration to deliver a strong economic legacy for Qatar. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jawaha. I accidentally took some of her notes down with me on stage, so she did a sterling job. Let's give her another round of applause, please. I'm just going to adjust this. There we go. FIFA President Gianni Infantino sends his apologies for not being able to attend this year's forum. However, we do have a video message from the FIFA Secretary General Fatma Samora on his behalf. Ladies and gentlemen, Fatma Samora.
Hello everyone, and welcome to this year's GWC Logistic Forum, just a couple of weeks before the start of the FIFA World Cup in Qatar. As I'm sure many of you know, GWC is the official logistic provider for the FIFA World Cup, and they make sure that deliveries from all over the world make it to the 8 FIFA World Cup stadiums. What you may not know is that GWC started in 2004 as a very small warehousing company, and now, just 18 years later, it is handling the logistic for the FIFA World Cup. GWC journeys illustrate the power and potential of small and medium-sized enterprise. SMEs represent the backbone of a successful and diverse economy. They create jobs and foster innovation. Qatar has been a hive of innovation in recent years, developing cooling technologies for stadium and state-of-the-art public transport infrastructure, including the Doha Metro and the light rail tram systems, for example. GWC, its partners, and stakeholders are utilizing the assets and experience of hosting the FIFA World Cup to deliver an economic legacy that is aligned with Qatar National Vision 2030. One of Qatar's great strengths is its determination to leverage the power of hosting the FIFA World Cup like no other country in history. And it is heartening to see that legacy being delivered even before the big kickoff. I encourage you all to enjoy the GWC Forum 2022, make new connections, and get ready for an unforgettable festival of football later this year. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was FIFA Secretary General Fatma Samora. A round of applause for her, please. It's now time for our first panel, titled The Direct and Indirect Impact of Qatar 2022 on MSMEs. Before I invite my panelists up onto the stage, I'd like to let you know what we'll be discussing during this session. As the name suggests, we'll examine the impact of hosting the World Cup on various sectors of Qatar's economy. And we have some very special guest speakers who will be sharing their insights. You'll notice on your tables there are QR codes. Feel free to sign those or scan those and hand in some questions that you would like to ask our panellists at the end of today's discussion. And if you're watching online on YouTube, you can comment below and ask your questions there, and we'll try and get to those as soon as possible. So without further ado, I'd like to invite our panellists up onto the stage. Please keep the applause going. We have from FIFA Head of Logistics, Jose Duma. Please welcome him to the stage. We have the General Manager of Coca-Cola, Nazla Babolu. She's coming up onto the stage now. From the Supreme Committee for Delivery and Legacy, the Communications and Media Executive Director, we have Fatma Al-Naimi. And the Chief Business Development Officer from GWC, Syed Mars. Everyone, please welcome our guest to the stage. All right. Jose, I'm going to start with you. Lovely to see you again. We spoke this time last year. First of all, I think I can speak for everyone when I say I can't believe that the World Cup is just 19 days away. I mean, how are you feeling in the lead up to what is going to be a massive event?
Yes, I think very good actually. So in terms of logistics, I was just speaking to some people here, we're slightly ahead of where we need to be. So
slightly ahead?
Yes.
I don't think anyone has ever said that in the history of the World Cup. Tell us a little bit more about being slightly ahead.
So one of the measures that we have is how far are we in bumping? Bumping for us is moving all the commodities, all the items that are needed to hold a Football World Cup in place. So if you take a stadium, tip it upside down, all the bits that fall out, except for the people, are things that logistics have put in. And when I see all the measures for how far we are ahead in terms of moving all those items in, it's about a week. Now we can measure it in cube, in volume, which all the logistics guys like, or we can measure it in value, which the finance guys like, or we can measure it and count it in pieces, units, which the guys at the venue like. In all those terms, we are ahead. So I think we're in a good position in logistics.
That sounds absolutely wonderful and incredibly encouraging. Before we move on to MSMEs, I'd like to ask Fatma a little bit about how this tournament has helped, in a generic sense, the economy of Qatar.
For us, I mean, since we actually won the bid in 2010, we made sure, to fulfill all of the commitments that we have, which is the Qatar National Vision. And you can see, one of the pillars we have is the economy, the human development, the social development. So we understand how these mega events actually have this powerful tool to do all of these changes. And we have actually learned as well from previous mega events. We don't want to start the legacy after the tournament. We actually start way ahead of the beginning. I mean, when it comes to the investing in all of the sporting infrastructure, which is around $6.5 million. And from our side, we have actually as well pledged for the SMEs of a direct investment nearly around $200 million. So we understand, the crucial of having the involvement in the private and the business sector of Qatar, because this is actually the first time for such a mega event being held in Qatar. So all of the knowledge, all of these investments actually, an investment even in their knowledge as a transfer. So all of the companies that have engaged with us can actually transfer this knowledge, and it will help even build their profile to actually even having a business even beyond Qatar, because this is a very unique knowledge that they get of staging such a mega event.
Yes, I think the idea of what's to come post the World Cup is something that's really interesting, and that's something that we're going to discuss in our second panel. Over to you, Syed. I want to talk to you a little bit about how GWC is supporting MSMEs in Qatar, and also describe to us or give us examples of what a micro, a small and a medium enterprise is.
Sure. Thanks, Emily. We already heard Ms. Fatima Samora and Jawahar mention about the importance of MSMEs for any economy. For Qatar specifically, the MSME sector has grown over the last decade, and it's one of the major drivers for the economy, like we've seen in the last 10 years. 4 years specifically, there has been a significant growth in terms of what MSMEs have been providing to the economy. And also ties in with the Qatar national vision of moving away from dependency on the fossil fuel, and also creating a self-sustainable economy. If you look at what GWC has done, so we've created an infrastructure to make it easy for new entrepreneurs and small MSMEs to come and do business.
I'm going to interrupt you there. When you say infrastructure, what do you mean in a practical sense?
So we've had a journey over the last 16 years from being a small warehousing company into managing about 4 million square meters of warehousing in the country. I would reckon that's the largest in the region as well. The most recent one being the 1.5 million square meter Alucare warehousing park, which was launched in March 2022, specific to the MSMEs. So this creates a whole ecosystem for the small enterprises. One of the biggest hurdles the small enterprises, other than let's say the funding or the initial seeding that they face, is the logistical challenges. Because if they are on their own, they face challenges bringing in the material and also giving out the finished product, because there are a lot of middlemen involved. So we've kind of created an ecosystem where it's an integrated logistics facility where you have workshops, you have storage places where, and these are designated to multiple industries where each other support. And this Alucare Logistics Park also houses the Master Logistics Center for FIFA. So it has created an ecosystem for small entrepreneurs and businesses to support each other and supply into each other, thus eliminating the middlemen and also reducing the cost. And it's also—
That's always very helpful, I imagine.
And profitable as well for them, because they don't have all the additional expenses.
Nazla, I'd like to bring you into the conversation. Nazla is the General Manager of Coca-Cola. I saw you nodding there. How does Coca-Cola collaborate with MSMEs during the World Cup?
So actually not only during the World Cup, Emily, so small enterprises are very important in our ecosystem, because the Coca-Cola system, with all its supply chains and also the ecosystem that we create as our customers.
I'm going to pass you my microphone. Can everyone hear Nazla? Struggling a little bit? Okay, I'm going to pass you my microphone.
Thank you, Emily. So, as the Coca-Cola company, actually we are a big ecosystem with small enterprises. And also, these small enterprises are our partners, so we don't see them as customers. When we look at the supply chain side as well, so it's a huge ecosystem from producing to bringing our products to the last consumers. So supporting them means growing our business. So all over the world, we have different programs supporting small enterprises to make them grow together with us. I want to give an example from COVID times. For example, we all know that digitalization, home delivery, and stuff like that were very important during COVID times. So we acted fast and then supported small enterprises to digitize their systems to be able to continue their businesses. So the same here. I mean, during the FIFA World Cup, we listen to them, understand their needs, to be able to serve and to collaborate in the FIFA World Cup system to grow their businesses and to create opportunities for them for the FIFA World Cup, but not only for the FIFA World Cup, also on a long-term basis, how they can leverage this period and FIFA World Cup investments to grow their business on a long-term basis. So this is how we see the whole ecosystem of Coca-Cola and small enterprises.
Can you give any examples of that, perhaps?
Yes, of course. So we are on the field with our sales teams. Of course, small enterprises from our perspective is more the groceries, so the small enterprises that are selling our products, and also the small enterprises that are producing our goods to make our products ready. So we are on the field. Coolers, equipment is a huge need. I mean, normally looking at the population of the country, comparing it with the people that will come in during the period, it makes a huge difference. This means equipment needs, additional product support, logistics support, of course. So we are trying to identify all those gaps. Normally, maybe for a small grocery, we make deliveries once a week. But now we need to make deliveries every day. So this is not something that they can analyze sometimes. So we are bringing the know-how of the system to make them aware what to expect. And then we are trying to identify those gaps and find solutions to it. So logistics, equipment, and products, I think, are the main areas that we are focusing on.
It's really interesting, and Jose, I noticed you nodding there. I'm really intrigued as to how FIFA works with small and medium-sized businesses and also some of the challenges that that presents.
So very similar, actually. We can just echo everything that's just been said.
Oh, okay, should we go home then?
Thank you very much. So, very similar. So we're working with a company now, a local printer, for printing access devices for entering the stadiums for vehicles. And again, we're working with them, developing them and their technology. So these devices now, when you scan the back of it, it has a QR code that will show you how to enter the stadium. And then we start recording data about how many parking spaces are used at that stadium. So we're working with a small company, a printer within Qatar for that. I think the second question was, how do we engage maybe? You know, how do we work with them? I think one of the main difficulties we have is having these smaller businesses have the confidence to work with us. FIFA is a very big organisation, and lots of people just see the big brands that we can see here. But for the small companies, it can be quite a challenge to work with a big company. So we had this in France, where we were trying to find tailors. And of all places where you'd imagine we could find tailors, it would be France. Tailors tend to be quite small businesses. And these small businesses were literally scared to work with FIFA. When they read our contract, our terms and conditions, it's quite daunting for small businesses. So probably from both sides, what can we do to make it more easy for companies to work with us, and also give the companies more confidence that they can work with us as a very big organisation.
And with that particular anecdote, the work that you needed these tailors to do was relatively simple, wasn't it? And these companies, you struggled to find someone to actually, what was it, just to adjust a shirt?
Literally just to take in sleeves and shorten the length of trousers. So very, very simple. It's not making a suit, but they just found working with FIFA to be too daunting.
Yeah, that's a really interesting, I would have never have thought of something like that. Nazla, did you have a comment as well, similar?
One thing to add, so this digitalization piece is very interesting. So in big organizations like FIFA World Cup, we see the newest digital systems, equipment from all around the world coming to the country. So I think the important thing is to keep them and continue to leverage them. One example, so we have a B2B ordering system for small groceries. Normally, like because of the size of the volumes, it was not very well perceived by the customers and grocery owners. They said, I'm just calling the sales guy and bring me some Coca-Cola, I'm out of stock. But right now with the high demand, everything needs to be digitalized and in one system. So now they have started to use that B2B digital system to give their orders, which gives them the opportunity to have data in their hands, to look backwards, what was my order last time, and also to give us also the opportunity to help them with their orders, and everything gets much, much quicker. So if that system stays, for example, after a while, and they build a habit, this would be a big advantage for them.
And I suspect it comes down a lot.
Opportunities, we make sure, like to involve all of these small, medium businesses, and to make sure as well, as I mentioned earlier, that the knowledge that they're getting out of this event is going to actually help in building the company's profile, where they can actually provide more support in businesses on an international standards, not only for Qatar, but even if they start exporting outside. Other than that, actually, the software legacy when it comes, we made sure, like to have a holistic ecosystem when it comes to the sports industry. So not only focusing on businesses, but also focusing on the people who are running these businesses. And so we have GWC Institute, which is a center of excellence of providing educational and building the capability and the capacity for people. We provide a lot of different courses for people, like to taken advantage of, like, for example, how to run the venue operations, the IT and technology and mega events, PR and marketing, security, all of these different elements to make sure, like, even when we have these businesses, we have the right caliber of running these businesses, and these actually courses have been to the public where people can actually sign up. We have more than 5,000 beneficiaries who actually benefited out of these courses that we have to provide, because we want to make sure as well, like, as business develop, the talent and and building and the capability and the capacity of peoples running this is actually as well being taken care of. We have also, like, even because Qatar World Cup is not only for Qatar, we always have committed to the region and to also, like, Asia, as we are part of the AFC. We have Generation Amazing.
I think that's something that's really interesting to pick up as well, is the region. And I would want to sort of talk a little bit about, you know, this is the first FIFA World Cup being held in the Middle East, which I think is just such a remarkable achievement, and I think it provides such an opportunity for education and growth about this region, and perhaps some of the misconceptions as well about this region. And one of the things that I thought when I was thinking about this event was about Coca-Cola's role, particularly given it is a Muslim country and that there are going to be dry zones. So I imagine the need for product is going to be very different to that of previous tournaments. Is that something that you guys are working through at the moment?
So Coca-Cola is such a product that is available in all the countries, of course, and our strategy as Coca-Cola in partnering with sports events is actually helping communities to achieve their strategies, to give back. So this is one of our main aims, and this is also true for Qatar. So it's not maybe a direct answer to your question, but I want to answer it from a different angle. So since it's in Middle East, it's very important for us because for the first time ever, it's in a market that we are not the leader. So this, of course, comes with some disadvantages, but we want to turn this into advantages. So we see FIFA World Cup as a great trigger for us, first, to again give back to communities, and of course, to also improve our customer and consumer relationships for the region. And I want to escalate on this community piece especially. We have two main aims when it comes to communities. One is women empowerment, and Qatar has done, I mean, is doing incredible when I look at that. Now we are sitting on the stage together as two women leaders, which I think is a great message for all of us. And second is the recycling and sustainability piece. So I want to proudly announce two things. So we are working very closely with the Supreme Committee Sustainability team. We have managed to build an industry coalition for the country. And this coalition will be working on a long-term plan on waste management, waste collection, and recycling piece. So this is for the long-term plan. When we look at FIFA World Cup, together again with the Sustainability Committee, the Supreme Committee Sustainability team, this FIFA World Cup will be the first World Cup where we are serving 100% recycled PET to all the spectators, which is a first for the system.
I think that's an incredible achievement.
Definitely, and again, I want to escalate back to, so we are not the leader in this market, so which makes it not easy to achieve this, but we've managed together. Also, FIFA and GWC were a great partner because logistics was the main thing here. So this is one of the legacies that we want to leave behind. Looking that it's in Middle East, it gives us a great flexibility on achieving our community support strategies globally here in the region.
And Jose, over to you, because I think Nazla brought up some really interesting topics there, which is one that I think is front and center for many of us, which is those sustainability elements. And I know we're deviating slightly from the topic, but I suspect that's something that has been front and center for FIFA.
That's correct, yes. So we're just in the moment in the process of bringing over electric buses. So that would be a first for us to have electric buses powered by electric. And I think we have many, I can't remember off the top of my head, but many electric cars as well. So now we're starting to introduce those into our remit as sustainability pieces as well.
And Syed, is that something that GWC has as front of mind, I guess, when we're talking about logistics? Is that something that perhaps complicates things or provides challenges or provides opportunities?
It's a combination. If you look at what Jose just mentioned in terms of electric cars, we've mobilized all of these from various parts of the world, starting from Germany, Korea, Saudi. So it involved integrated logistics. There were a lot of complications because in terms of customs, in terms of regulatory requirements, and one specific thing is where Hyundai wanted to move some prototypes, which were robos, right in from Boston, which had batteries in it. So there are restrictions moving these on aircrafts. So we had to use special mechanisms, special permissions, all of that. But yeah, we are a proud player. And also to the point which Jose mentioned earlier, when you put the stadium upside down and whatever falls out is logistics, there is a huge amount of waste that it generates as well. So the right disposal, right mechanism in terms of, so logistics plays a very key role there. We support all the event management companies, the sponsors, the commercial affiliates for all the bump-in that goes, and it looks very nice, it sounds very nice, but there is a lot that kind of gets left out and which needs to be retrieved and disposed of in the right manner, which has to be environmental safe and part of the sustainability as well.
And I guess that reminds me of the 974 stadium, which, Jose, can I ask you a little bit about? I haven't given you a heads up about this question, but obviously that's that fantastic stadium with all the container boxes that they've used to create the stadium. I guess that is an example of sustainability at its finest.
Correct, yes. And I think the idea is it can be dismantled, put in the containers, and then shipped around the world. So it's a reusable stadium, which is, I think, quite novel, really. Just
returning to the idea, Nazla, I guess, yeah, I mean, Coca-Cola, this is something that they need to consider as well, very, very front of mind.
One small addition to this topic. So FIFA and Supreme Committee and also all the commercial affiliates are very sensitive in terms of waste management. So we all are working towards like zero waste event. And I think this is also a good support to the small enterprises in that sense. So Doha Plastic is one of the biggest recyclers in the country, and they have invested in infrastructure to be able to recycle PET, which they didn't have before. So recycling is actually a very interesting topic, which I think Doha will be working on, also starting with the FIFA World Cup learnings. And it will be a great area for small enterprises to invest in. It has huge potential, and Doha might become the hub when it comes to waste management and recycling in that sense, with the FIFA World Cup being a trigger.
I think that's really exciting and a really important point to make. If I can just circle back to what we initially discussed, which is these micro, small and medium-sized enterprises. How do you, Jose, envisage them in Qatar capitalising on the country's hosting of the tournament looking ahead over the next 10 years? You gave one example of the QR codes, but is there any other examples, or how else can small and medium businesses really capitalise on what is a world event?
I would imagine the most prominent way they can capitalise is that they now have FIFA on their CV. So when they go to a bank and want more money, when they want to go and get other customers, other clients, they then have FIFA, and FIFA is such a recognised brand. I think that's a good thing to have on a company's CV. So I think that's maybe an intangible, soft benefit. As for the more tangible, harder benefits, I think when they work with FIFA, they're reaching an international standard that quite often in local countries, in local markets, companies can't reach. So they're now reaching an international standard for sporting events. And that's good for everything. That's good for sporting events, it's good for conferences, and anything else that these companies may choose to do in the future. But I suppose, even to go back 2 steps, these small micro businesses, the companies themselves, what are they? before they're actually born. It's just people. It's just people saying, I'll give it a go. So if you think kind of for the future, well, I can speak about my future and what happened to me. I was working in London 2012. I was part of the organising committee, like people are working here, on the Football World Cup. And my friends and I thought we'll start our own partnership, a micro business. And from there we progressed and went around the world doing events. And that's what brings me here. So there'll be people in Qatar now that are saying, you know what, we could do this somewhere else. We could do another World Cup. We could do it better. We know how to do this. And they'll be getting together, and after the Football World Cup here, starting those businesses to take around the world. So there's probably a number of dimensions to it. The existing companies, yes, it brings them into the, I suppose, the international big league. And then for people that are just thinking, what do I do? It'll be, I could give this a go and start my own business.
And I think before we open it up to Q&A, a point that I want to touch on that you've mentioned, Jose, is it ultimately comes down to people. And I think people are at the core of any business, any organisation, any event. And as Sayed and Fatma, I would like to bring you into this. I mean, how important are the people, I guess, Sayed, to you, to what you do?
Certainly. Like we've always spoken and seen, in GWC, people are our biggest assets. So though we may have 4 million square meters of warehousing and integrated logistics, a large freight division, and different supply chain streams, it's eventually run by people. So people are our biggest assets, and they play a vital role in enabling and making us the enabler of supply chain services in the country, making us the preferred choice for the logistics. So when you look at the ramp up that we've done towards FIFA, we've kind of added almost 50% additional people for ensuring the event is managed smoothly. So they've come in a couple of months ahead and being trained and to ensuring the whole event goes smooth. And adding to what Jose earlier mentioned, one of the most seamless World Cups so far. And logistics has a very key role to play in that. And it is the people who make it happen. It's behind the scenes.
Hang on, did you just say this is the most seamless World Cup so far before it's begun? Is it a little bit early to judge, maybe?
Certainly. But if you look at what's been happening in terms of the logistics infrastructure, with the bump in and with the mobilization and the stadiums are ready. So logistics has a key role to play in that, and people are the ones behind it. It's the people who make it happen.
I was just teasing you.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think to be fair on Naz as well, nothing's ever perfect in our business. Yeah, I've never come across a tournament where we think actually everything is perfect. You're laughing, yeah, and you just switch on, and then it all works perfectly. I think there's always things that need to be done.
Exactly. All right. Well, I'm going to just grab my iPad. I tried to magic it over here, but I couldn't. So just hold tight, and we'll just open up the panel to some questions.
Sure.
Talk amongst yourselves. You'll have to excuse me, this is probably one of the most giant iPads I've ever used. It's more like a television screen. And okay, so I have a question here for Jose. I'll monitor them as I go. Is Qatar the best prepared World Cup host in history? And what could future hosts learn from Qatar?
Well, I mean, Maz touched on this. There's no comparison that can be done because all the countries are just so distinct and so different. You're really not comparing like with like. Every culture, every country is just so unique. But as Maz was saying, we're in a good position here. We're in a really good position. So, yeah, you can't draw comparisons. It's just, you know, in Russia, the challenge is geography, and here the challenge is compactness. In Russia, we had to move large distances. Here, everything is within, Maz would know better than I, but a short distance.
And that, even though that may seem to be a benefit, it can also create challenges as well, I imagine. that sort of the cluster of traffic and the like, that's something that is a different challenge in terms of logistics.
That's correct, Emily, yes. So almost if you're spread out because of geography, you don't have a single pinch point. Here we have a single pinch point, for instance, traffic, for instance, the airport, for instance, if there's a security problem. In Russia, where it's spread out so much, that you've spread the risk almost. So yes, it's an advantage and also a disadvantage.
Yeah, Nazla, I see you nodding. Is that something that Coca-Cola has to take into consideration?
It's not only about Coca-Cola, but as an observer who is also doing business here, maybe, I think one of the advantages is everything is set up for the FIFA World Cup right now from scratch. So the country is transforming into FIFA World Cup. This we didn't see in Russia, in Brazil, which I see as a huge advantage for Doha.
And Fatma, there's a question here. Do you think the World Cup will make it easier for international companies to set up in Qatar?
Yeah, I mean, like there is a lot of free zones. Qatar Financial Center, there's a lot of opportunities actually for international companies to have their base in Qatar. And I think this will be like an opportunity. There's a lot of international companies already engaged, but I think probably through their engagement and through like the opportunity that they see with the market and Qatar development plans even beyond the World Cup, I think there are a lot of people might be having, I mean, like to base offices here in Doha as an outcome, because I mean, the World Cup is the biggest event, but I mean, like on a yearly basis, Qatar do host local and international different sporting events a year. And we do have, even beyond the World Cup, we have the Asian Games in 2030. We do have as well the AFC Cup, the Asian Cup in next year. We're also having the Formula One for the next 10 years. So there's a lot of actually business opportunities for a lot of SMEs and international companies to engage with us.
And before we let the panel go, I'll direct this last question to you, Syed.
Sure.
I mean, as an example of a company, GWC, being small and growing so large, where do you see the company going post the World Cup 2022?
We are very optimistic and we are charged up. I would say we are excited. We are not only a Qatar-based company, we are already present in the region. We have operations in UAE, in Oman, and Saudi Arabia. So we're looking at growing that exponentially in the next couple of years, because as such, the region is evolving and there's a lot of energy around in the region. So there is a visionary approach towards what the company wants to achieve and the objectives. So definitely being the official logistics provider for the World Cup, which is the world's largest event, sets a stage for us and sets the bar very high for us to outperform and grow. So we're excited. So we look forward to the exciting times ahead.
I think that's the perfect way to end the panel discussion. It certainly is an exciting time ahead. I'd really like to thank our insightful panel. I'm sure you'll agree. Many thanks to Jose, Nazla, Fatma and Syed for this enlightening discussion. A round of applause, please, for our panelists. It's now time for a coffee break, so please sit back, relax, enjoy, grab a coffee or a tea, and we'll return with our second panel in about 15 minutes' time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you dream bigger?
Oh,
Okay. Imagine it's really
Yeah.
by having. To the city of the future, and Neymar is there.
No problem.
Really?
Imagine the best of us coming here.
Amazing! Bigger! Millions will come. And the world is watching? Whoa! And imagine, we're winning the hearts of the whole world. Dream bigger with QNB.
Logistics innovation.
Where do you want to put it? On the inside? No, no, no. That's fine. Okay. Mm. Okay.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
This is the French. This is all except.
Oh. Take it out.
Imagine you scored the goal of the year. Can you dream bigger? Okay. Imagine it's remade by Cabby. To the city of the future, and Neymar's there.
No problem.
Really?
Imagine the best offers coming here.
Amazing! Bigger! Millions will come. And the world is watching? Whoa! And imagine, we're winning the hearts of the whole world. Dream bigger with QNB.
From construction to venue logistics, broadcasting to hospitality, GWC ensures seamless transportation services, essential in a high-stakes environment. GWC offers customers a competitive edge, providing a whole suite of world-class logistics and bespoke solutions, backed up by more than 3 million square meters of supply chain infrastructure. A global network of dedicated teams, innovative specialists, and state-of-the-art tracking, transport analysis, and optimization systems. People, safety, and technology are at the core of what they do, handling multi-ton cargo, the delivery of a single document, specialist equine solutions, and the secure transportation of fine art collections. No matter the industry sector, logistical challenge, or security need, GWC deliver the complete end-to-end logistics service for customers big or small. GWC, delivering logistics innovation.
problem.
Really?
Imagine the best offers coming here.
Amazing! Bigger! Millions will come. And the world is watching? Whoa! And imagine, we're winning the hearts of the whole world. Dream bigger with QNB.
Hosting a global event like a major international sports tournament is a complex logistical challenge. And the FIFA World Cup 2022 in Qatar is an event like no other. GWC are proud to be its official logistics provider. It takes detailed planning and a robust supply chain infrastructure to ensure an event like this appears completely effortless as the world eagerly watches. From construction to venue logistics, broadcasting to hospitality, GWC ensures seamless transportation services, essential in a high-stakes environment. GWC offers customers a competitive edge, providing a whole suite of world-class logistics and bespoke solutions, backed up by more than 3 million square meters of supply chain infrastructure. A global network of dedicated teams, innovative specialists, and state-of-the-art tracking, transport analysis, and optimization systems. People, safety, and technology are at the core of what they do, handling multi-ton cargo, the delivery of a single document, specialist equine solutions, and the secure transportation of fine art collections. No matter the industry sector, logistical challenge, or security need, GWC deliver the complete end-to-end logistics service for customers big or small. GWC, delivering logistics innovation.
problem.
Really?
Imagine the best offers coming here.
Amazing! Bigger! Millions will come. And the world is watching? Whoa! And imagine, we are winning the hearts of the whole world. Dream bigger with QNB.
Hosting a global event like a major international sports tournament is a complex logistical challenge. And the FIFA World Cup 2022 in Qatar is an event like no other. GWC are proud to be its official logistics provider. It takes detailed planning and a robust supply chain infrastructure to ensure an event like this appears completely effortless as the world eagerly watches. From construction to venue logistics, broadcasting to hospitality, GWC ensures seamless transportation services, essential in a high-stakes environment. GWC offers customers a competitive edge, providing a whole suite of world-class logistics and bespoke solutions, backed up by more than 3 million square meters of supply chain infrastructure. A global network of dedicated teams, innovative specialists, and state-of-the-art tracking, transport analysis, and optimization systems. People, safety, and technology are at the core of what they do, handling multi-ton cargo, the delivery of a single document, specialist equine solutions, and the secure transportation of fine art collections. No matter the industry sector, logistical challenge, or security need, GWC deliver the complete end-to-end logistics service for customers big or small. GWC, delivering logistics innovation.
Imagine you scored the goal of the year. And you dream bigger? Okay. Imagine it's remade by Kabi. To the city of the future, and Neymar is there.
No problem.
Really?
Imagine the best offers coming here.
Amazing! Bigger! Millions will come. And the world is watching? Whoa! And imagine, we are winning the hearts of the whole world. Dream bigger with
1-1. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you're all refreshed after that coffee break and are ready for the game and for our second panel. This one is titled The Way Forward, and we'll delve into the trends and challenges faced by MSMEs and what lies ahead for Qatar and small and medium businesses. We have 4 very special guests I'd like to introduce you to, but before I call them onto the stage, I'd just like to remind everyone that we have a QR code on the table, so if you have any questions for our panellists, feel free to scan the code and add them to the conversation. And if you're watching online on YouTube, you can add it to the conversation below the video, and we'll try and get to those questions as well. All right, I'd like to welcome our panellists to the stage now. I'd like to invite Charles Nahas, the General Regional Manager of Microsoft Middle East Cluster. Please make your way up to the stage. We have Dr. Manal Al-Zaidan, the Director of Pharmacy for Primary Health Care Corporation. We have Dr. Christos Anagnostopoulos. He is the Assistant Professor at Hamad bin Khalifa University, and joining him also from Hamad bin Khalifa University, we have Associate Professor Dr. Camilla Swart. Everyone, a big round of applause, please, for our panellists for the panel titled The Way Forward. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us here. Is it still the morning? No. Is it? That's my first question. I hope you get it right. It's the morning. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us, especially during what is such a busy time. I was saying earlier, I can't believe that it's just 19 days away until we have the World Cup right here in Qatar. I want to start with you, Mr. Charles Nahas, who is the Regional General Manager of Microsoft Middle East Cluster. Yes, please share the microphones amongst yourself. Firstly, how does such a huge tech company like Microsoft support MSMEs here in Qatar?
Thank you, Emily. Good morning to everybody. Look, we're very excited of being able to be in Qatar, first of all. I think we've been, from the beginning, as a company, we started as a startup, if you think of it. As many tech companies, we started as an SME. And we believe that this is really one of the segments where we need to support a lot. And this is to a certain extent also aligned with the vision of the country here. The Vision 2030 of the country to support SMEs, because it's crucial in terms of helping the country in terms of diversification, first of all. It's also essential in terms of creating innovation. A lot of the innovation that you see in the world is coming from SMEs, moving into medium-sized companies and growing, and it's important really to create a sustainable economy. So that's probably one of the main reasons why, from Microsoft, this has been, if you want, a segment of that we have been focused on. And we put a lot of effort around that in terms of supporting different type of SMEs. For us, you can more or less categorize them, especially that we look at them from a tech perspective. So you have the startups, really the innovation startups as one of the segments, or one of the type of SMEs. You have probably the second one is more the home businesses, which you need to support and help them. And the third category of SMEs for us would be the commercial SMEs, the small boutiques, small shops, small lawyers, things where you really need to provide different type of technologies. But across the board, our role is really to enable those SMEs to be successful. And and if I want to double click a bit on the startup part, there's a lot of programs that we do to help on that front.
Yeah, and I will like to delve into that in just a moment in terms
Sure.
of the success stories that Microsoft has. But I think speaking to you has led me to bring in our educators or our members from Khalifa Hamad University. I'm going to start with you, Dr. Christoph. Christoph, start with some of your research in your research area. We're talking a lot about corporate social responsibility. So tell us a little bit about the UNESCO Chair on Social Responsibility in Sport, because this is all obviously interlinked when it comes to working with large corporations and also small and medium ones.
Thank you, Emily. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Days before I joined HBKU, we launched in my previous university the first ever and globally UNESCO Chair on governance and social responsibility in sport, with a view to inspire the wider sport movement, but crucially, the companies, the firms that are associated with the wider sport movement to design and more socially responsible programs and interventions that have sport at their core. And I'm very glad that FIFA, that Coca-Cola, and I'm sure Microsoft and other companies have touched or will touch upon this social responsibility, the sustainability element behind this event. And I very much welcome the title of this panel 3 weeks before the game, and we are looking forward. We are looking to discuss how we can move forward. And I think an interesting dimension, I think at least for me, is to look how companies, how firms utilize sport for delivering, for implementing their own CSR, their own corporate social responsibility agendas. Because I'm sure we will all agree, Fatma mentioned that quite explicitly earlier on, that sport has the power to motivate, to engage, to inspire people, especially the young generation. So the question is, how do firms, how do companies outside sport utilize sport to deliver their own CSR agendas? And I think that the UNESCO chair, but the work that we do at HBKU is to find out how firms, how companies within Qatar and in the wider region are willing or are planning to use this particular event as a catalyst to start doing more work through sport to deliver their CSR face and their CSR messages in a meaningful fashion. I can tell you more about what sort of research we've done on this area.
Yeah, and I do want to get to that. I guess I want to take one step back, and I want to ask Dr. Camilla, when we talk about legacy and we talk about the future for mega events, what are we actually talking about?
Good morning, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. And I want to thank GWC for having us as a research partner. And I think, Emily, what you raised in terms of legacy is that we've seen how this space has evolved over the years. And I go back to kind of some of my initial work around the South African 2010 FIFA World Cup, where we really put emphasis, as we are doing here in Qatar, to collaborate around the research impacts and legacies of a World Cup, and how, back then, the focus was more really in terms of the short term, the impacts of the events, and legacy was really used interchangeably at that time. But we have evolved, and 12 years later, there's a lot more focus on trying to define legacy, as also mentioned earlier. It begins actually from when you are awarded the bid, how the visions, as in our case, in terms of the Qatar National Vision 2030, how that is integrated into the plans of achieving legacy. But very importantly, from a legacy perspective, we're actually talking about the structural changes that will be left after the World Cup, whether we are talking about people, all the environment. And I think it's very important in terms of today's conversations that we're looking at specific aspects, whether it's changes in policy and governance that makes us achieve more in terms of economic diversification, in terms of our collaborations, whether it's changes to in terms of intellectual property, and also in terms of changes in attitudes and behavior. So it's wide-ranging aspects that this event is giving us that platform to leverage going forward, and in terms of today's discussion, specifically focusing on MSMEs and how we leverage this opportunity by collaborating together to achieve and maximize the potential opportunities related to this event.
And I think what you've touched on there in terms of the changes and the impacts of a sporting event, slightly off topic, but we've seen the impacts and the changes as a result of the pandemic, which brings me to our doctor here, Dr. Manal Al-Zaidan, the Director of Pharmacy for Primary Healthcare Corporation. And I guess as I'm picking up from what you guys are saying, before we can move forward, we need to reflect on what's occurred. And in relation to the pandemic, your industry has seen a huge change, and those changes are actually relevant to the World Cup going forward. Tell us a little bit about what you've experienced and how you see the way forward and the impact on FIFA 2022.
Thank you so much, Emily, and good afternoon, everyone. I totally agree with Dr. Camelia. Actually, there was a change in behavior and policies and everything once we had the pandemic, and the impact was, positive to a very high extent, because in PHCC we have delivered care remotely and virtually, actually. One of the examples and one of the major services that was during the pandemic is the medication home delivery service. So we used to deliver around like an average 500 to 700 deliveries per day to provide an access of care during the pandemic, especially that we had instructions to stay at home and to have social distances between each other. The other thing that we have, implemented the virtual services via phone or via videos. Most of our patients were receiving the care by their healthcare providers like physicians, pharmacists, and other healthcare providers via virtual services like telephone and video consultations.
I think that was something that became very apparent during the pandemic, no matter where you were in the world, that these virtual services were very much needed, but also a really effective tool moving forward. And I do want to ask you a little bit about how you think those services will be used and utilised during the World Cup. But before I do that, I'm going to take it over to you, Charles. I mean, that's where your organisation comes in entirely, and it links back into that MSME enterprise.
Yes, absolutely. I think, look, when I look at the panel, look at the different application and services that both the pandemic has driven, and for what we're trying to do with the FIFA and others, you need an underlying technology, and we see it more and more. We need an underlying technology to really be able to make the video connections, to be able to run the delivery, and I'll more than that talk about some of the technologies that's going to help us in that, but that's becoming fundamental for any business or any event or anything to be held at this point. So, and playing a role in that. But going back to SMEs, I think the core thing for me around SMEs is what you need to do to make them successful. And there's probably 3 areas where you want to really support SMEs in terms of how to get them to grow and have impact in their business and of course in the environment where they are. There's a technology, and again, we're looking at SMEs from a Microsoft perspective, which is very technical in nature. The first thing that you want to support SMEs with is with the technology and helping them understand the technology and take the best out of them. These people tend to have brilliant ideas when they're building their startups. But what you need is really to support that. And we have something called the Founder Hub, which is our startup program, that's come in and support these SMEs, give them the right coaching, the right support, and in some cases, the access to the right technologies to help them build the best technical solution that they can. But as you know, you can have a brilliant idea, but if you don't get it to market the right way, you don't have the right tools for that, it becomes more challenging. So the second pillar for us to support SMEs is around mentorship. And we see a lot of great ideas, but they need more support in terms of how to put the right marketing plan, how to put the right financial plan to help in that. And we have a worldwide networks of mentors that can engage in SMEs and support them in making that happen, depending on the stage of the SME and what support they need. And probably the third one, which is fairly unique to Microsoft, is really our footprint across the different countries. Our footprint in Qatar, for example, is fairly significant in terms of people that we have in the country, expertise that we have in the country, and the partner ecosystem we have. And what that brings to SMEs, it brings really a go-to-market for them. They can leverage the team here to access customers, to access channels, and to be able to be more successful. And when you put those three things together, that becomes a fairly compelling reason for SMEs to engage and for us to make them successful.
Christos, I noticed you were nodding there. Please contribute.
I think Charles Watt mentioned especially the second pillar, the mentorship, gives me the great pass in football parlance to highlight, I think, an important dimension, always aligning with the way forward. In my view, an important dimension, what we see in major sport events is, you know, we are talking about legacies, about state-of-the-art sporting infrastructure and a stadium, but also technologically sophisticated, I don't know, operational systems and so on. But what we don't do much, relatively speaking, is knowledge, and pretty much what we do here today, knowledge sharing and knowledge transfer. And if we look at major sport events, executives, managers, what they tend to do is to transfer explicit knowledge prior the event and tacit knowledge during the event. Tacit knowledge is more cognitive, more experiential, less technical. What we don't do much is to pass tacit knowledge after the event, and if we don't do that, we don't, if you like, utilize much what we call organizational memory, which is in essence the output, the result of an organization's learning process. So in my view, this is the beauty, where the beauty between, you know, companies like GWC and academic institutions like HBKU get together, work together, is to help capture, you know, this tacit knowledge, which is very rarely converted into explicit knowledge. And don't forget, you know, in three weeks we have the event, 4 weeks, and after that we are getting ready for another big major sporting events. So we need to grasp this tacit knowledge, convert it into explicit knowledge, and we have colleagues, not myself, I'm social scientist, but we have colleagues, we can utilize machine learning techniques to capture this tacit knowledge, convert it into explicit knowledge, so everything that examples, experiences that managers go through during and mainly after the event is captured, and, you know, it can help us move forward and capitalize on this event.
And I guess that brings me to what is sort of an overarching question, which I'll address to you, Dr. Camilla, and feel free to jump in at any time, other panelists, is how does business, government, and academic collaborate to foster social development and economic growth?
Thank you, Emily. Yes, so to add on to what Christos has said, it's exactly that partnership and collaboration. And what you're referring to is the triple helix model, where we see over the years, we heard Mr. Sayed talking in the first panel, you know, in terms of when GWC started, but in all these years, the relationship they built with government and the Ministry of Commerce and Industry in terms of pushing economic development and growth. And along that, we've also heard from the previous panel and also referred to by the Secretary General of FIFA in terms of how the World Cup has created that platform for MSMEs to benefit and also grow. And so along with that, I think what Dr. Christos is talking about is that we have to see ourselves as integrating with academia who can push the research, the innovativeness, and actually feed off each other. So integral to this relationship is government, private sector or industry, as well as academia. And with us working together, and I think this particular case of GWC is quite illustrative in that our work continues way after the event. Yes, we have the team in place who's ready to go and ready for the game, but how do we build on this? You know, there's just been so many lessons. This is a super complex event, but how do we take those lessons forward? It's by working together. We just met before the panel, and eventually the first question, the first comment was, oh, but we also need to do research together.
We have to.
Absolutely, and it's about that networking, it's about that engaging so that we all work towards that same goal of maximizing both economic and social development and
That's
growth.
what I was going to say, Dr. Manal. I mean, this is exactly what the medical industry thrives off, is that partnership with education.
Yes, actually, it is one of our strategic goals to have a collaboration with the academia. We do have MOUs with many academic institutions here in Qatar, and we have published many peer-reviewed publications in international journals, and many are, undergoing. It is an ethical obligation to share our work with the world. It's our obligation to share our experience and the lessons learned, actually, with everyone, because it's a shared responsibility, and it opens many economic business ideas. All of the virtual services or the remote services, even the way that we have implemented the medication home delivery service. We started with manual process, and then we ended up with developing an app for the registering the patients, and then we are ending now very soon of implementing an app for the service itself. So there
Which is a learning from the pandemic in itself.
Yes, and the services are they are continuing forever, because even our ministry is supporting those services, because it's an extra or it's an additional access of care to our population.
I think that brings me to Microsoft and the learnings that Microsoft, obviously being a startup to now a global tech company, and now you're working and using the resources that you've learned and sharing that with SMMEs. I mean, have you got any examples of success stories where these enterprises have learned from Microsoft?
Sure. I just want to make a quick comment on Manal's, Dr. Manal's comment, because I think, look, each one of the events that we're facing recently, especially, I'm thinking of the pandemic, and I'm thinking of the FIFA World Cup, is a whole learning experience for us. And it's, to a certain extent...
I think we can all agree that the pandemic was a great learning experience for us all.
And it's changing things. It's changing things that we never thought would change. I can tell you, just from a work environment in Microsoft, we used to go to the office, everybody used to go to the office. And now the rules have changed in a natural way, to a certain extent, where to our advantage, we're using more technology to be able to work from home, work from different locations. I personally now starting to work from so many different locations, which for me is a plus, because I can be in any place and do that. Some pleasant places that I like to be in and still work from there. And I think, again, I see, so that's the pandemic. I look at the FIFA World Cup. It's another event that will have a so significant legacy to the country in terms of, as you said, the learnings that everybody's going to take out of that, take them to the next World Cup, but also take them into all different businesses that we have. So no, it's an exciting time to be in Qatar and with that event. Going back to our SME impact and what we're doing in Qatar in particular, and I think that's an exciting, as I said, this is a very exciting segment that we're focusing on. And as I talked, there's different engagement that we do. And if I look at some of the recent engagement with some of the startups in the country, you look at Sununu, for example, which is one of the startups here, one successful startups here.
The delivery service?
Yes. We partner with them, and we really help them more on the technical side in this case, reviewing their whole cloud infrastructure, helping them in optimizing and really making it more efficient for them in terms of how to do that, and helping them in providing a much stronger experience to their customers. And that engagement was very, very specific to helping them on the technology part. They had an acquisition in Oman recently. We also engaged with that subsidiary to help them in their digital transformation too. Skip Cash is another example. It's a fintech that is really trying to optimize, minimize the use of cash. In this case, it's more of a go-to-market strategy that we have with them. We have
Which
a team.
also links into the pandemic, because there was that move away from cash for safety precautions.
Exactly. And so they feel that the world is moving to a cashless economy, and we're very excited about what they can do and how they can actually have impact in the society, starting with Qatar. And we felt that the technology is strong, but where we need to support them is on the team that we have in the ground and the access to the customers that they want to reach, and helping them on that front.
And on that brings me to my question for Dr. Christos. How can a mega event like the World Cup be a catalyst for change, for more socially responsible behaviour expressed by the private sector?
Well, excellent. I would like to, not many often academics have the opportunity to stand in front of some decision makers in those very, very influential companies. So I will take this opportunity to share with you what we have found research-wise from a series of research, and what we see be the case moving forward after the World Cup. We ask a very simple question. If there is a consensus that sport is a powerful tool, so the question that we asked with some very good colleagues from different parts of the world about 10 years ago was, how do companies like Microsoft, like GWC, using this powerful tool to deliver CSR programs? So we examine...
and when you say CSR, you mean?
Corporate social responsibility. Different people call it, sustainability, SDGs. There are different terminologies to talk about the same thing. Beyond the profit, what else companies do to help communities, to help development in areas where they exist and operate and beyond. So we were curious to find out what companies do, and we first looked at FTSE 100, the listed companies in London Stock Exchange, and we examined these 100 companies, multinational firms, over a 10-year period. And we were trying to find out what, by examining their annual reports, their CSR reports, and so on, official documents, how much they do by using sport. So what we found was about 1,473 cases across the decade. We replicate the study in 2 different stock exchanges in Moscow and in Warsaw for a smaller period of time, 5 years. And what we found was almost 4 times more programs using sport for CSR implementation. So what are the messages here? First, companies are there is a trend, are increasingly using sport to develop CSR programs. Second, there is, and this is very interesting in our case, there is an upward spike a year before major sporting events, much more programs according to the research, right? And then there's a spike, obviously, downward after the event. So we shall expect a kind of, I don't know what is happening here. There are 48 listed companies in the Qatar Stock Exchange. So one of the goals is to have a look at them and go back, let's say, to 2010 when the event was awarded, and since then examine the annual reports and see how much of the likes of GWC is doing in terms of corporate social responsibility through sport. They do fantastic things. A lot of companies, you do Microsoft, Coca-Cola, they do beautiful things to support the community. But the idea is how, as you asked Emily, how an event like this, so powerful, can be indeed the catalyst for these companies and the small, medium companies supported by bigger companies like GWC utilizing this event, drawing on sport to make a difference, because as we said, probably we all agree that sport is a powerful tool for positive social change.
And I would like to get Charles's reaction to that. I mean, that's something that you're nodding. You obviously agree with what Dr. Christos is saying.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's leveraging sports in all its form can really help in triggering a lot of innovation in the market. And I think it's both. I'm very interested in understanding more the pattern that you're seeing before the sports and after the sport. I don't think we face that from our perspective.
I can connect you guys later if you want to chat.
Absolutely.
Well, I guess on that, yeah, Christos, can you explain a little bit more about that trend, and also perhaps, actually, if I hand that over to Camilla, because you've been a part of this research as well, and also it brings and draws us to that connection between the university and why we're here today, which is GWC.
Well, very quickly, I think we all understand that it is normal. Companies, especially listed firms, they have one of the prime motive is to make money. So they want to jump on these occasions, and they want to capitalize sporting events, major sport events, and they want to associate themselves with these events. So it's normal, it's natural that they use this as a catalyst to use sport and do nice, beautiful things, or to design programs that have sport at the core. That's why we see these upward spikes when we did the research. And I believe that if we replicate the research over here, we will see a lot of companies in this country and the region, utilizing sport for their corporate social responsibility programs. And after the event, in the next annual report, we might see fewer references, and the year after, even fewer references. And when other major sporting events getting closer, so we see the likes of GWC doing even more, right? Using sport for social responsibility. One example of social responsibility of GWC is what we do here today. We use sport to discuss the impact on medium-sized, small-sized enterprises and so on. But the platform upon which we stand is sport itself, and this is a nice example of social responsibility of a particular company.
Camilla, you want to add to the research?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, and I'm going to take it from a different angle in terms of this dip. I think it kind of makes sense that, that there will be this dip, because also when the event moves on to the next edition, then, the companies tend to want to get the profile of the next event. And I'm talking from the sort of South African experience, looking at corporate social responsibility and some programs that were funded as a result of the World Cup, or were catalyzed by the World Cup. And very importantly, I worked on one particular project where the World Cup was a stimulus for this particular sport program that started out with football, and it's now across many sports and across many areas. But I think what was very important was the bottoms-up approach, not the World Cup driving it, but yes, that is the event is there, but the support from the community, the supports from government, and support at the grassroots level to sustain what was achieved by a big event like the World Cup. So I think what is important, as Christos mentioned, is that yes, we have the World Cup that drives this change, leads us to have more corporate social responsibility programs through sport, but then in terms of, back again to legacy, in terms of changes in attitudes and behavior, that we see sustained programs, and then maybe again a uplift with the next event. But I think what this also demonstrates again is the importance of partnership. We are here in academia to support and make those programs more sustainable, to learn, but in an objective manner, and to improve what companies are doing, or what government is doing, or what even us as academia are doing within the hosting of sports mega events and leveraging those opportunities. It comes back again to that partnership.
And to that communication, please. Doctor.
Yeah, and as a pharmacist, my background and my experience in sport pharmacy, and we are approaching, a fantastic event. I think we have a social responsibility in increasing the awareness of the anti-doping issues, medications, and also the supplements for the athletes. Some of the supplements may have medications that really it is prohibited, or contents that they are prohibited in sports, and it is really something something good. It's a good idea for small and medium sized businesses to support in this field and to provide the best supplements, and even in healthcare organizations to support athletes, and to prevent them from getting those medications, for example, which might affect their career, for example. And we are transforming, a technology had a huge impact on the transformation of healthcare. In addition to my colleagues, we have a great partnership with Microsoft Office, and all the meetings were through Microsoft Teams. We're using LMS to professionally develop everyone in the organization.
It really is quite amazing how interlinked all of your different industries are as we sit here today. Now, before we go to some questions from the audience, I guess I want to end on the future, on the way forward, and I'll start with you, Charles. What are some of the innovations, what are some of the trends that we can expect to see as a result of the World Cup in your particular industry?
Sure. Look, let me first by touching on one thing of a legacy that to a certain extent we're going to get after the World Cup from an infrastructure that we have built to help in enabling the World Cup, but also in helping the SMEs down the line. And I want to touch on two things that we have launched this year. One of them is the Center of Excellence for us, which is a skilling center that touch all aspects of all segments of all segments in the country, from public sector to enterprise and to small, medium businesses, and even to education, where we're trying to create the knowledge and skills that are going to be necessary for that. And I think that's part of the fabric that will support SMEs. And the second one, which of course probably you heard, is our data center, our hyperscale data center that will launch in Qatar. This is from an infrastructure, I think one of the most advanced technologies and data center that we have as Microsoft. It's on really the latest technologies, and that's going to be, if you look at the skilling part, and you look at this data center with all the capabilities, and talk some of the capabilities in there to help, this is going to help in terms of not only transforming the country, but enabling SMEs to build on that, and to get both the skills and the technology to help that. In terms of future technologies, I think there's probably some of the medium and long-term, like, I don't know, quantum computing. We're talking about different capabilities there. We're talking about metaverse as another. But what I want to be a bit more practical in terms of where I see some of the important focuses, which is probably some of the things that you have heard, and some of the things that we are going to be enabled by some of the capabilities in the data center and others. So the first one is around AI. We heard about AI, the importance of AI and machine learning to be able to help in making better use of the information that's around us, and to provide more intelligence. We use it, we're starting to see it embedded in every day. I mean, I'm sure that you have those assistant, Siri or Alexa, that helping you for things like that. We have it embedded in some of the capabilities, even in some of our own products. Outlook, if you try to send an email without an attachment, it will tell you.
It's a very handy feature, actually.
It will help you. It saved me many times.
You and me both.
Times, yes. So I think it's becoming much more pervasive in terms of what it's there. But the capabilities and what it can bring is unbelievable in terms of what it can enable. And we're seeing much more usage of that across all industries. The other probably important thing is back to the data that is available out there, and the importance of really having a right data asset and everything around that in terms of grabbing the data, making it relevant, and then turning it into something that is useful for you. That's becoming a very important, if you want, trend that we see across all industries, to be able to take maximum advantage of that. And probably the last thing I want to touch bases on is around cybersecurity. I think that's becoming, it's not necessarily something that enables new technologies. It's not something that enables new businesses, but it's something that businesses need to take absolutely into consideration when they're running their own infrastructure. A lot of the services, a lot of the application is now in technology, and the sophistication of the cyber attacks have increased tremendously. And so you really need to take really good attention at this component and build it from the beginning.
I think that's really good advice, and probably an entire other panel discussion, but we really appreciate your insights. We are running a little bit short of time, so I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Manel, and I guess just if you could talk a little bit about, just briefly, where you see your industry going. And you spoke earlier about that sort of virtual consultation and education type programs.
I see my organization moving toward maintaining those services, and even opening more opportunities for our patients, like mental health support services, via the virtual consultations and services. Also to continue with the research with the academia. It is one of the most important points in order to to maintain and sustain our services, and also to share our experience with the world.
Thank you so much. I'll hand it over to Dr. Christos and Dr. Camilla. We have a question from one of our online viewers, which is, how is HBKU helping Qatar leverage the hosting of the World Cup?
Okay, so on a couple of different fronts. I will talk since that I've been here for 3 years, whereas Christos been here for 3 months, but he can add based on his experience here. So one of the things that HBKU has been able to do is really just leverage off and push a research agenda around the World Cup to ensure that, you know, as much as we need to focus on compliance and delivering the World Cup, there's another set of academics and researchers like ourselves who are saying, well, what are the returns for a host country? What are the returns from Qatar? How do we systematically measure and evaluate that? So we've been supporting from a research perspective. We have provided input into the impact report that's being developed by, drafted by Supreme Committee. We have engaged on various different projects. I can talk from other colleagues in terms of technological innovations, in terms of that's touched on the workers and wearable sensors as an example in terms of technology and innovations. I can talk about our work in relation to the volunteers, and I can talk about many different projects, but I think the important part where we've been able to leverage this opportunity is in our program itself, in that this program was only started in 2019, and in itself is a legacy of the World Cup, because, you know, if we're going to be having all these sports events and we're hosting all these very big sports events, we have to build capacity. We have to build local capacity, and that's where we as HBKU comes in, and to leverage that opportunity of building the, the future sport management leaders, you know, that is going to take us, take this next generation forward in a sustainable manner too.
And I guess we'll leave the final word to you, Dr. Christos. As we are 19 days away from the World Cup, what do you suspect your research will highlight once you complete it in the coming months, if not in the next year or so? What's your crystal ball saying?
Well, there is this impression, oftentimes rightly so, that academics are sitting in their offices and trying to develop all these crazy formulas or notions that not even their peers understand and accept. Well, I want to be as concrete as possible. Moving forward, I think if we go back last year, if I'm not mistaken, the theme of this forum was getting ready for the game. This year is ready for the game. I think talking about legacy, talking about sustainability, talking about bringing together academia and the industry, it must be Lessons Learned 2023 Forum. And then it must be Short-Term Impact 2024 Forum. Long-Term Impact 2025, 6, and so on. So I don't want to put extra pressure to GWC, but I think if we want to really build on what we learned today through this knowledge transfer and sharing that we mentioned before, I think this needs to continue. This needs, as Dr. Camila mentioned, this fading away emphasis on sport when the very prestigious sport events, become history, then should not be. And there are good, there's evidence that it should not be the case in this case in Qatar, but should not be the case generally. So I think we should be here next year to be discussing the lessons learned, and instead of me, from an academic perspective, talking about, very abstract and high-level things, a concrete suggestion or recommendation is to be back here next year and discuss the lessons learned, and the year after, more impactful matters that happen thanks to this World Cup and the lessons that we can take to the next major sporting events.
Well, let's hope so. I'll put it in the diary for 1 year's time. Thank you very much to all of our panelists. Please thank Dr. Camila, Dr. Christos, Dr. Manuel, and Mr. Charles Nahas for their contributions today.
Thank you.
We'll just take a couple of minutes break while we set up for the next presentation, and then we'll be right back with you. So please do stay with us. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you wouldn't mind taking your seats, we have a very special presentation on its way. I'd like to invite to the stage for our presentation on business success and prosperity titled 1,000 Opportunities. Please welcome Hamad Al Abdan. He's the Director of Business Development and Investment Promotion for the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. Please join me in welcoming Hamad to the stage. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks to GWC for their invitation, and I hope this will be a very beneficial session. We would like to walk you through the 1,000 opportunity that was initiated and done by the Ministry of Commerce. I don't know, you will be able to see some of these slides. And it was my bad that I didn't give them enough time to prepare the presentation as it should be, but will do my best to walk you through each and every step that the opportunity would be, inshallah, benefit for everyone. The 1,000 opportunity basically is a link between the private sector, SMEs, entrepreneurship, and the service providers. We, at the Ministry of Commerce, we interact a lot with international companies. Some are locals, some are foreign direct investment. And we saw there was type of a gap between the supply and demand, especially for the international companies. So what do I mean by international companies? There was a law that was initiated 2019, law number 1, that allows the non-Qatari company to establish 100% entities. So, and most of these companies are non-local companies. So they come to the market, they do their own projects without local partners. So we thought that we need to do a step further where the ministry sits with those companies and to ask them what is their needs, what is their local supply can be. So the 1,000 opportunity came as a consequence or as a result of this continuous meeting. So basically we went to the international companies, we tell them, we need you to work hand in hand with the local companies, either fully owned by Qatari or fully semi-owned by Qatari with their partners. And we wanted to localize all their procurement. Not only procurement, some of the international companies, you will see some examples of, we selected first phase of 8 companies, and those are international ones. You can see in the screen, this is the batch 1, where, for example, Match Hospitality is a very well-known company in the market, and they are here for World Cup. Also, McDonald's, CCC, it is a very diversified selection, where you can go from hospitality all the way to trading, hypermarkets, and all these things. We want to guarantee that everyone will have clear and easy access to the opportunities. So we went, for example, to CCC. We'll just give you some. This is their criteria, where everyone can be inducted and see how he can deal with CCC for their projects. So if you can scroll down, please. These are requirements, and same applies for the other 7 companies, where CCC have certain requirements where everyone has to come with in order to be an official or an authorized suppliers. So this is the, you put your name if you want to be part of this initiative, if you want to supply any type of material that CCC is wanting. So you put your name, you put the name of the company, CR, and all this information. You select the goods that you want to provide. So after that, you put your email. This is the example of what they want from the local market. So you can see aluminum material, building material, and so on. The moment you select any type of service you want to supply, you just press on the, you will send us, the moment you press submit, CCC will receive an email, and we will receive an email to make sure we follow up, and we guarantee that you give clear and clear connection between you guys, where after 2 weeks, some of our assigned team within the ministry, they will do a proper follow-up between the request and the company that is requesting this service. And we'll make sure that you guys are, take it step by step. Of course, some companies like McDonald's, they have, the US McDonald's type of criteria that everyone has to pass through certain process where they cannot approve you right away. You need to do some development where either in your production line or your quality and or your hygienic system. So McDonald's have their own criteria. And they tell us we have, for example, McDonald's, they have no local bakery supplier. So most of their suppliers, we have given 11 opportunity as a manufacturing. So McDonald's, they want to have local supplier subject to the, meeting their criteria. So if you come up and you meet their criteria, of course, you will be one of their suppliers, which is a very significant number of sandwiches a day. Not only McDonald's, KFC as well, plus some other. Power International Holding is a whole local company, but with international presence. So we think this will absolutely close the gap between the local SMEs, the entrepreneurs, and the local and major company that can be part of this development. I personally believe that you cannot develop a sector if you don't have an off-taker. And I guess Qatar has golden opportunity that over the past 15 years, 12 to 15 years, where I think World Cup was a very golden opportunity for some locals, not everyone. We have to, admit this because still the local SMEs needs mentoring and needs type of, of course they are working hard, but being on the international level, you need to follow certain steps, just like the criteria that is given by major player, as we have listed them here. So I guess the opportunity will evolve, and it will be even bigger after World Cup, especially for SMEs. There's a video that I want you to walk you through that is for how to apply for the 1,000 opportunity. So if the team can just run it for us, I really appreciate that. It's sweet and neat and easy information. Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much to Hamad. We're just going to ask him a quick couple of questions, and then we have 2 workshops before we have lunch being served. So please stay with us. Hamad, thank you so much for that discussion. Unfortunately, we're running a little bit short of time, so we will try and keep this a little bit brief. But one thing that I wanted to ask you was, which industries do you think will benefit most from the 1,000's opportunity?
I guess, the most beneficiary was the construction material and building material. But from now on, I guess we can see a lot of development in the F&B sector. This will be a great opportunity for the local companies to be a part of it. Some of the, I would say F&B is gonna boom, especially local manufacturing, because as you can see, sometimes you are squeezed by the time to start your own F&B and or anything related to food sector and food security. And I think it will continue, and it will be a good for the private sector, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, I mean, look at this beautiful venue that we're in today. I think that highlights just how important the F&B industry is.
Of course, absolutely. And this is what one of the things that is, if you look at the opportunity that is listed, even the major companies like McDonald's, KFC, they have listed projects that they want to localize it. So, for example, the bakeries, either McDonald's or KFC, they don't have local supplier. So they're saying, here we go, private sector. Meet our criteria and we'll be your customers. So basically, if everyone comes, he will be having nearly 80,000, let me go to that level, 80,000 sandwich a day. So this is significant for the private sector. If they want, from day one if you comply with their criteria, from day one you have an off-taker. That's what I'm saying.
Well, my husband's a chef, and I don't expect to see him until December 18th. So
we'll keep him busy then.
Yeah, you're keeping him very busy. We've been talking a little bit about moving forward, and I guess my next question to you is, how do you keep that momentum going post the World Cup for Qatar?
I guess, after World Cup, everything should be, everything now is in rush, but after World Cup, things will be more of excellence type of service. So I would say it'll keep running because, Qatar, even before starting World Cup, we have 2020, we won the Asian game and we are working hard on sport events.
The Formula One was another example that we learnt today.
Of course. So out of things that is, Qatar will keep moving in this direction, and I'm sure the legacy left behind will be amazing. And I'm sure all the private sector and SMEs and entrepreneurs as well will be more than their time after World Cup will be even, and the opportunity will be much bigger than what some people might think that we lost the opportunity. No, the opportunity comes after that. Yes,
indeed. I think that's a perfect place to leave it. Thank you so much for
My
your
pleasure.
time.
Thank you
Hamid
very
Al Abdan, the Director of Business Development and Investment Promotion from the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. Please give him a round of applause, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. It's now time for our first workshop and presentation. Let me get to the right page. This will be run by our guest speaker, Aisha Khalifa Al-Rumahi, who is the Manager of Special Programs at Qatar Development Bank. Her role ties together two of her deepest passions, which I love: a genuine desire to guide and support startups in Qatar, and her appreciation and love for fashion and design. Aisha will share her insights on MSMEs in Qatar, and among her other responsibilities, the development of a platform known as Scale 7. So please, everyone, welcome Aisha to the stage.
Thank you, Emily. Assalamu alaikum. Before we start, I would like to thank GWC for hosting us as Qatar Development Bank to showcase how QDB is actively working together with other ecosystem partners to enable a platform for the young generation of business leaders and entrepreneurs in Qatar. So today I'm going to take you through a small presentation about our new add to our portfolio of incubators and accelerators at Qatar Development Bank, which is Scale 7. So basically Scale 7, as you all, is the first fashion and design business incubator here in Qatar, and it was established as a hub that could support entrepreneurs, fashionpreneurs in order to sustain their talents. So we work together with Qatar Museum, represented by M7, the fashion and design hub located in Musharraf Museum, in Musharraf, and we are working actively with on leveraging a new know-how by having international expertise from Fashion Tech Accelerator Milan. As you can see, so the fashion business incubator that we have is basically, we are giving a platform and a community for fashionpreneurs, artisans, and artists in Qatar in order to sustain their talent and then transform it into up-and-running businesses, because once we work together with many institutes support fashion and design in Qatar, we figured out that there is a lack between sustaining these talents and transforming them into up-and-running businesses. So we are offering essential tools that these designers can have to sustain these talents and transform it into businesses, focusing on these areas in fashion, product design, and technology, which is fashion tech. Next. So throughout our support, we run a couple of programs at Scale 7, a variety of them actually. And activities that could empower and create a community for these young designers throughout pre-incubation programs, incubation programs, and acceleration programs. And all of these programs give all of the business essentials that these startups need, from capabilities building, training, and the business side of these startups, access to market opportunity, business development, matchmaking, etc. Besides that, we have the hackathons programs, which is a very intensive programs for a couple of days, so these designers can come up with a business idea or a business model that could sustain or solve an issue in their operation. Scale 7 Passport, which is a very unique program for the accelerees in the acceleration phase, which is a 10,000 euro token. So they can go and travel the world, explore any expansion business opportunity outside Qatar. Besides that, we actively organizing speaker series just to combine between international know-how and reflect on a local designer or a business owner to offer the best practice for our incubatees to follow. And we have the lab programs. Within our premises, we have fully dedicated labs in 3D printing, laser cutting, so the designers can look into new practices to integrate a new technology into their design. And we have the jewelry studio, the photography studio, where also the designers can explore and photograph their lookbooks and do their editorials within the incubator itself. And of course, we have the investment opportunities through QDB because we are offering pre-seed funding to the startups who are incubated with us. So we have a couple of success stories since inception. We start operating since 2021. Most of our programs were running virtually due to the pandemic back then, but alhamdulillah, now we start gradually to go back to normal, either by running them as a hybrid model if we have international speakers, or physical workshops in our offices. I mean, Dana Riyadh is one of the successful stories that we have. She's a designer, graduated from VCU Qatar, and I mean, with all of the offerings that we are offering her, she started to expand, look into new opportunities, whether in Doha, outside Doha. The uniqueness of this business idea is basically Dana, she started to tap into a new market, which is the metaverse, and she started to design her NFTs, and she went sold out in her first collection. So this is something that the designers can consider in order to expand. Another idea, another business concept that we have with us is Lova. So basically, she's a abaya designer. She's an actual engineer by practice, but she followed her passion, and she started to expand her business model and apply new technology and supply chain and look into suppliers outside Qatar. And one of the things that we offered her, so she won Scale 7 passport, where she traveled to visit one of the exhibition in France to meet and sign with the suppliers so she can have the best quality in terms of production. A third case that we have with us is the third startups is Suera. Next. So basically, Suera Jewelry. I mean, Fahad, he's a graphic designer, and I mean, he followed his passion to create a jewelry collection out of his interest, and we supported him in terms of R&D and access to market when it comes to local production, and even showcase in anchor department stores in Qatar. I mean, Fahad is actively participating in jewelry exhibitions, whether it's in Al-Hazm or in other department stores in Qatar. Besides that, I mean, we of course, I mean, ran into many challenges with our startups, but we are looking to create better opportunities for them. So we've been witnessing that the registration procedure are a bit expensive for emerging designers, and that's why we are giving them all of the guidance that they need to set up their businesses by offering them connection with the ministry and offering them office spaces at our incubator. They have limited access to local suppliers. That's why we keep encouraging them to keep exploring and look into other practices or other suppliers from outside Qatar. We've noticed that there is a disconnection between stakeholders in the fashion industry, and that's why we are located in the hub in Msheireb and M7, where we are trying to engage all of the ecosystem partners, let's say, from production, know-how throughout universities, and even inspiration through the M7 exhibitions. I mean, last year they had Dior, and now, I mean, they've recently opened the Valentino Forever exhibition, and all of this create, I mean, inspiration for the startups here in Qatar. Another opportunities that we are trying to offer is basically we are offering them the opportunity to visit and explore international markets and exhibitions and manufacturers, of course. And a very unique thing that we are trying to offer here at Scale 7 is the photography studio in a subsidized rate where of the startups and fashionpreneurs can I mean, photo shoot their editorials and lookbooks. I mean, throughout the hackathons and other programs, we tapped into the recent and future trends in the fashion industry, as you all know. I mean, we have sustainability is one of the main themes that we keep encouraging the startups to explore, either throughout having a sustainable business model, sustainable supply chain, and even look into sustainability when it comes to production, engaging eco-friendly products, and even reflect back on the communities that they are staying in. Another thing is the digitization. So as you can see, this was the first abaya that's produced in our laser cutting studio. So this is a purely laser cutted with inspired from the Qatari culture. I mean, it's worth to mention that Scale 7, since inception, have graduated 45 fashion designers from the incubation programs, and we invested in them up to 4.5 million as a pre-seed ticket for throughout the incubation program. So thank you, and let me know if you have any other questions.
Thank you so much, Aisha. Another round of applause, please, for Aisha. Ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for our second and final workshop before we offer you all a well-earned lunch. I'd like to welcome to the stage for the workshop titled Empowering MSMEs in the Age of the Sharing Economy. Could you please welcome our guest speakers from Hamad bin Khalifa University, our research partners for this event. We'll begin the presentation with Dr. Adel Al-Omri, and also we have Professor Lausin Kabash. Please, everyone, a round of applause for the two gentlemen. Thank you. So we'll begin with a presentation from Dr. Adel, and then I will have a quick Q&A with Professor Lausin. So please welcome them to the stage. Thank you.
Okay, Assalamu alaikum. And first I would like to thank GWC for involving us in this interesting forum. And here by us, I'm referring to our division of Engineering Management and Decision Sciences at the College of Science and Engineering at Hamad bin Khalifa University. And of course, involving myself and Dr. Lausin and Dr. Camila and Dr. Christos that you have seen before. So today, we will be just giving a very short presentation about what we're doing in our logistic and supply chain management program on questions related to empowering SMEs in general, and we would like to share some of our thoughts with you today. So, I think it was mentioned by all the speakers that MSMEs are quite important to the economy, and here are some numbers from the World Bank stating that roughly actually about 90% of the businesses and more than 50% of the employment are thanks to SMEs. Besides, in emerging economy, SMEs are participating more than 40 to 50% of national income. So these numbers are quite actually telling that MSMEs are basically the real contributor for any economy worldwide. So by stimulating the development, the innovation, competitiveness, etc. However, as now the past pandemic, and as stated by several reports from the World Bank, the World Trade Organization, the United Nations, SMEs has been basically hit a lot by the pandemic. And next slide, please. Many SMEs globally actually are shutting down, and many others surviving are really struggling because they became, in a sense, very vulnerable. So the idea is the surviving SMEs also will have to deal with a kind of a post-pandemic shaped economic landscape that is basically characterized by a very actually changed pattern of demand and sale, very changed distribution and customer behavior. So the questions actually we were investigating at our division is within this context, how to empower MSMEs and what initiatives should we look for to enhance MSMEs in general. So basically, we wanted just to capitalize on one item here, which is the change in pattern of sale and in demand. So basically this is not only due to the pandemic, but basically driven by the technology in general, where we are seeing a big shift now in the customer and in the demand, where most of the consumer actually they are shifting from ownership to access. So we all have many mobile applications now that helps us getting access to several services like transportation, food delivery, and so forth. So this is actually where we wanted to capitalize, and this is basically characterized by what is called the in-demand economy or the sharing economy. So basically, these are, to answer this question, we wanted basically to explore two things. How sharing economy based businesses could support MSMEs, and second is the role of the collaborative logistics could enhance MSMEs practices. So first, actually, just quickly about sharing economy. As I mentioned before, this is, I mean, the consumer practice is driven more by access and not access to services and products rather than ownership. And this is basically driven by all these mobile and digital platforms where we have access now to several services like, you know, Uber and transportation, Airbnb for accommodation, Lyft, among many other well-known now international applications. So in one hand, on the other hand, now from a consumer perspective, and this is actually fostered as well by the COVID pandemic, where there was actually very big shift towards online delivery, towards at-home delivery, towards getting access quickly and easy to several services. And this is actually was possible by several mobile applications and digital platform. And this is exactly where we want to explore how this could contribute further to provide MSMEs with a market access. There is actually a very big niche here where MSMEs could explore to further extend their market, and by accessing further the end user and consumer. Next slide, please. So this is actually when it concerns the downstream part. As I mentioned, we are exploring this question, and our research shows that there is a huge potential for MSMEs to widen their customer portfolio by further exploring this niche of on-demand economy. And we do have actually several examples here in Qatar of several ideas that's now being leader on the market. I would, for example, mention Sununu, that is now in the big actually player in the food delivery, and many others. Now, the other question is, and it's probably the most important question for MSMEs, is on the upstream part. Usually MSMEs and startups, they do have one major, actually three major issues. Issue number one is access to market. Issue number two is financial aspect to raise, you know, funds. And then the issue number three, which I think is very, very important and most important one, is access to know-how and resources. And by definition, a startup or an MSME could not afford investing in expensive machine, a 3D printer, or any other type of machine. So the idea here is where, I mean, collaborative logistics here could support into this direction by having the same idea of accessing end users to further collaborate, and here by collaboration it could be enter SMEs, SMEs versus other companies, and collaboration here might, for example, could be in the form of consolidating efforts to take advantage of economy of scales by, I mean, as simple as, and this is very common practice, for example, in US, where several small firms could join their efforts together to make, for example, joint order and then take advantage of economy of scale. It can be also as in terms of sharing resources, warehouses, etc. And this would help in creating actually a more resilient business. And as we saw in the previous presentation, I think in Qatar we are into the right path when it comes to supporting MSMEs through, I would say, digital transformation. And the very good example presented by Mr. The previous speaker from the Ministry of Industry and Commerce, a QDB as well example. So we do believe that this kind of platforms would be quite important to foster MSMEs. So these are basically the main idea that we would like to convey today, as we SMEs should take advantage of the change in the pattern of consumer and capitalize more into this, let's say, digital platform enabled businesses. So thank you very much for your attention, and we'll be happy to answer any question with respects in the discussion. Thank you very much.
How many mics? Hello. Thank you so much, Dr. Adel. We're going to take a couple of questions with the two gentlemen from the university, and then it will be time for lunch. So please do stay with us. Dr. Adel, thank you so much for that presentation. Just briefly on what you said, how is the university supporting Qatar's blossoming MSME sector?
Thank you very much for your question. Definitely, actually, the main ground for MSMEs and startups is the innovation. And I think universities in Qatar in general, and in particular in HBQ, they are giving actually big attention recently to the questions of innovation, to provide students and faculties and researchers with more access to facilities, to bring actually their ideas more from, let's say, basic research idea into a company. So this is one dimension of it. When it comes to curriculum, when it comes to, we do have at HBQ an innovation center that is supporting students. There is a lot of competition. There is also research funding to fund and to support any kind of ideas. The second is we at HBQ, we are working very tightly with several of the company and trying to get as close as possible to the industry to bridge the gap between industry and academia. And this is, in my opinion, the main driver for innovation and for, of course, supporting the business landscape in general.
I'd like to bring in Professor Lausin now, who is also part of this research. You both are researching, among other topics, the empowering of SMEs. Professor Lausin, tell us a little bit, I mean, we're here today thanks to GWC, so tell us a little bit about the collaboration between HBKU and GWC.
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon. We thank you, Emily, for the
nice
for the question. For us, this is really timely because we signed the MOU with GWC last year, and the objective of this collaboration with GWC is to join hands and work on research and development on different topics, especially related to technology and the enablers, for logistics and supply chain management. And of course, we focus mostly on research that is impactful, in line with the Qatar National Vision 2030. And I think it's really a golden opportunity for us and for GWC as a win-win collaboration, because what we want is to work on topics together. And for example, what we need from GWC is their expertise on the ground. So we already last year, we had some speakers coming from GWC to our programs. Just to mention, our logistics and supply chain management program is a two-level program. There's a master's in 2 years and a PhD in 4 years. And our students, they come from different areas. Most of them, in fact, they're working for different companies.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about those students. Sorry if I can just touch on that, because I'm quite interested in that. Tell us a little bit about your students and who's really interested in this particular industry.
We even have some here in the room, and some of them are senior in some of the
Did they have
companies.
a choice to come?
To
come here, I'm joking.
No. I don't know, but I see some of them from companies that probably either within the supply chain of GWC or even in competing supply chains. And we're basically, and I come from a school, HEC Paris, where I was the dean here for 7 years. In Doha, where we do executive education on lifelong learning, and basically we take a lot of the the N and -1, -2 levels to bring them back to school, just to revisit all the changes that are taking place within the their economic environment, etc. And also, we always tell them, when you come back, we want you to really try to experience is this customer experience and what I call the aha moment, meaning that maybe they went to school, but then when they come back and we explain to them a second time some of the concept, they say, I never understood it before. And some of these are very, very, very important. And so so these students, we do have also some international students. They come and through scholarships, and they here on a full time. But all the Qataris and those that are expats, etc., non-nationals that are here, mostly they work with companies, which is for us a great opportunity, because then we try to get them to bring in some of their project ideas, because most of the research that we do is drawn from these research ideas that come from the companies, but we have the ability and the faculty to transform the research ideas into research projects.
I think that's something that I have, particularly just that importance of the education throughout all the different processes, whether it's before, during, or after, and that's something that I think one of our panels picked up on. I'm noticing lunch, so I want to ask you just a brief question, Professor, before we go, and one that sort of moves forward. So what do you think are some of the trends that we can see and innovations in the education sector going forward?
This is a very difficult question, because we're into prediction, and a lot of the experts who predicted that internet will never work, that the automobile will be, okay, they will cost too much and one cannot be mass produced or not feasible at all. So, but I think we're in a business of, education, where we training people for the long term. Okay, when we train somebody goes out there, it's usually for 20, 30, 40 years. Okay, and you know that most of the jobs, they disappear in about 5 years, especially now with technology. With
technology is a big
development.
part, yes.
A lot of the, the jobs probably in 2040, okay, you won't find much left from what we have today.
Wow.
And so therefore, I think we have two major challenges. What do we need to teach them? And how do we teach them? Okay, and we don't have time, but I think the most important thing, in terms of what do we teach them, I think Charles from Microsoft earlier was saying technology is very, very important, and we have the whole battery of AI, IoT, augmented reality, and so on. That is going to be very, very important. Big data, etc. So these are, especially that, we have this digital world that is moving very, very fast. And the other one is, so what kind of qualifications we want to try to give them. I think we need to train them critical thinking. I think that's very, very important. They need to get some of the analytical skills. I know some students, as soon as we say analytical skills, they start, backing back and say, well, this is difficult, etc. But these are very, very important. Also, some of the, social behavior, social responsibility, etc., and so on. So I think we can go on, but I see the time is ticking.
I'm sure, I think one thing that is for sure is that everyone here today has been very passionate about their industry and about what they do, which I think is really encouraging, and I feel like we are in very safe hands. Thank you so much to Professor Professor Larsin and Dr. Adel. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the conclusion of this morning's event. A huge thank you to all of our fabulous speakers and contributors. Also a special thanks to our forum partners, QNB, BN Sports, HBKU and Flowered. We hope you have found this event interesting and useful as we all work together ahead of the FIFA World Cup. Before I let you go, please keep in mind on social media that you can follow at GWS Logistics for exciting updates, for more information about today's forum and some really exciting upcoming projects. I'm Emily Angwin. Thank you so much for your time and listening today. Enjoy your lunch, and of course, let's be ready for the game. Thank you.